Journaling has got to be one of the most talked about subjects when it comes to self-help. I bet if you were to look up right now any videos that were like locking in for 2026 or something like that, 90% of them are going to mention journaling. And this definitely makes sense because journaling is undoubtedly very helpful, but at least in my opinion, I think a lot of the videos that talk about journaling get a main crucial detail very wrong. And that does make sense because journaling is something that can be very beneficial to your life regardless of how you use it. But I think a big detail that a lot of people who talk about it don't really get right is they act like it's something that you have to do a certain way and there's only one way to do it. All the videos I've seen that have been self-help oriented or about locking in for your year, whenever they mention journaling, the main thing that they'll say is it's treated as something where you have to do it for like 20 minutes minimum a day. You have to wake up in the morning and one of the first things you have to do is take out your journal, write in it for 20 minutes about your thoughts, and then leave it at that. And I think that does a bit of a disservice to journaling because it's a lot more versatile than that, and that's for many different reasons. First off, just when it comes to writing, there's a lot more to write about than your thoughts, and also depending on what you want to improve in your life, you might not even really need to be writing down your thoughts about your day. In fact, you might want to be writing stuff that is entirely different from your thoughts. I've been journaling for about a year now, and this is the second journal that I've had to use. And I have been journaling in a way where I actually don't really write about my thoughts at all. And mainly because that hasn't been something that I found to be important in my life yet. There are 4 important things that I keep track of whenever I journal, and it's 2 things in the morning and 2 things at night. When I go to journal in the morning, the first thing I do is I write the date, the time that I'm journaling, and then I write how well I slept, and I record that on a scale of 1 to 10. The sleep part isn't super important to me making progress. The only thing it really helps me with is if I find that I'm not sleeping well for like a few days and I'm like, okay, it's something I need to focus on more, but it's not one of the super important parts. The first important part is what I write after I say how well I slept, and that is my tasks. On the top line, I write tasks, and then I go down a line, and then I write out what I feel are important things that I need to finish within that day. Summer's coming up and I need to get an internship, so I write down internships just as a way to remind myself that I need to apply. I also need to go to the gym, so I'll write that down, and I also need to do cardio, so I'll also write that down. And lastly, I have some homework to do, so I'll write that down as well. And you'll notice that as I write these down, I put a blank box next to each word so that when I do end up doing it, I can check it off. And then I go down a couple lines to write down the second important thing that I journal, and that is reaffirming statements. I'll normally write this out as 2 sentences, with the first sentence being certain variations of like, you know, you're gonna do really good today, or hey, you really need to get all this stuff done, or it's a busy day, make sure to lock in. But the second sentence is always the same, and that is that I tell myself to stay focused and be amazing today. And that's because when I started journaling, I felt like that was something really important that I wanted to reaffirm. And that's because when I started journaling, the main thing that I really wanted to keep reaffirming in my head is that I have to stay focused and that I have to do as well as I can each day. But for other people, maybe if you're playing a sport, every single day you write down, swing for the ball if you're playing baseball or something. But I always found that to be an important sentence to write out every day so I could reaffirm it in my head. And then I write the third important thing, which I like to call statistics of the day. This is where I like to keep track of 5 emotions/feelings through the day, which is happiness, confidence, productivity, physically, and accountability. And I record how I felt about all of these on a scale of 1 to 10. And then finally, I write my 4th important thing of the day, which is just a general summary of about 3 to 5 sentences of how I felt throughout the day. If it's a normal day, I'll just say like, oh, I felt like I did a lot of work today, or maybe I didn't do a lot of work today, or I had a good gym session, or I enjoyed hanging out with friends. But it could also range from maybe I had a crazy day where I went out to a party, or I went to a date, or I tried a new food spot, something like that. It's really just a general summary of what I felt like happened through the day, and I'll normally mention important things if I felt like something important or notable happened. Now the thing is, this is the way I do it, but it's not the correct way to do it. And that's because there is no correct way, and I think that's kind of my overall point that I'm making about journaling. If you're someone who finds a lot of fulfillment in writing 20 minutes in your journal every time you wake up in the morning, then that's great. That's what works for you. But I find it odd that some people present it as a way where that's kind of the only correct answer, because there is always going to be different ways that people like doing it that's going to work for them, especially depending on what their goals are. If you want to keep track numerically of your work or goals, then you can do that. Maybe you want to spend those 20 minutes writing out your thoughts. Maybe you want to do both. So if you're going to journal and you really want to do it in a way where you're going to improve your life, do it in a way that's going to help you achieve what goals you are trying to accomplish.